Hello everyone, you're on VM24.com channel, and today we're going to assemble Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. First of all, we need to remove the card tray. To do this, we use the dedicated SIM eject tool. Push the tray out and set it aside. If you use, for example, a needle or a paper clip, you can damage the tray or the hull. As a result, the tray may get stuck and you will have to go to a repair shop. Next, we heat the surface of the back cover to approximately 70 degrees Celsius or about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. For this, we use a heating mat, but you can also use a hair dryer. After heating, we need to remove the stylus, so it doesn't get in the way. Then we can move on to separating or peeling of the back cover. To remove the back cover, we use a thin plastic film. Insert it into the gap between the back cover and the mid frame and carefully run it along the edge, cutting through the adhesive. As always, you need to be careful around the side buttons because there may be flex cables located there. You also need to be careful around the cameras so you don't accidentally touch or damage the lenses. So we carefully work our way around the edge. You need to be especially attentive in the camera area, don't rush and don't use force, so you don't accidentally damage anything. At some point the back cover will come loose. Carefully separate it, check that there are no cables or components attached to the back cover. Next, we need to protect the camera lenses. For this, we use a special protective film. Please note that we apply the film not on the lenses themselves, but on the rim around them. After that, we need to remove some of the screws in the upper section. For this, we use a Phillips screwdriver 1.5 mm or Phillips #30. It is better to leave the screws that hold the cameras in place for now, so the cameras don't move around. Then, using a non-metal tool, we disconnect the wireless charging and NFC connector and set this assembly aside. After that, also using a non-metal tool, we disconnect the battery connector. Carefully disconnect it and move on to the lower section. In the lower section, we also need to remove screws. For this, we again use a 1.5 mm Phillips screwdriver. We remove the screws and place them on a separate surface and separate from the previous ones. Next, we need to remove the cover, most likely with a loudspeaker. At the correct spot, carefully pry it up and try to lift it. On new Samsung models, an arrow usually indicates the direction in which the covers should be removed. So we remove the cover with a loudspeaker and set it aside. Then we disconnect the interconnect flex cable connectors. Carefully disconnect the connectors. The narrowest cable is usually the antenna cable, formerly a coaxial cable. So we disconnect the connectors on the motherboard and we can remove the interconnect flex cables. The flex cables have an arrow indicating the direction toward the motherboard. We disconnect the last display flex cable. Now we move on to removing the subboard. First, we need to remove the 3 screws that secure the subboard. Carefully remove the screws. It is better to keep these screws separate from the previous ones, just in case, because the screws may differ in length. After removing the screws, we take out the subboard. Carefully pry it up by the edge, lift it slightly, since the subboard is slightly recessed, and remove it. The subboard contains the microphone, the charging port and the card connector on the reverse side. And here is our traditional quick test of the microphone opening. The microphone hole has an L-shaped design and is located in the display frame. On the opposite side of the microphone hole there is a protective membrane. The microphone body itself is located on the subboard on the reverse side. If you insert something into the microphone hole, you will not be able to damage the microphone this way. Also note that there is a protective membrane located on the subboard as well. Now we move to the upper section. We need to remove the screws that secure not only the speaker but also the motherboard. Carefully remove the screws. It is also better to keep the screws separate from the previous ones. After that we need to disconnect the connectors. Carefully disconnect the connectors. And now we can remove the cover with the speaker. Carefully pry it up at the correct spot and try to lift it. Unfortunately, the cover comes off abruptly. On the inside of this cover there is the speaker and a small antenna board. After that we disconnect the front camera connector. We also need to remove the remaining screws. These screws may differ from the previous ones, so they should also be kept separately. We remove the screws that secure the cameras. Now we can remove the motherboard. Carefully pry it up by the edge, lift it and remove it. Flip the motherboard over. Now we can disconnect the connectors and remove the rear camera assembly. Disconnect the cameras and set them aside. So we remove the rear cameras. Finally, we need to remove the battery. As you can already see, someone has disassembled this phone before us, so the battery comes off very easily. We simply pull it slightly and it detaches. Very often on Samsung devices the battery does not come off this easily. So that completes our disassembly. Thank you for watching and see you in our next videos, either on our Telegram channel or on our website.
Okay guys, now we're done. Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel or read our articles on our website. Take care of yourself and until next video.